Thank you. Game dev on the go. iPad tools. iPads? What can they do? Do they do things? Let's find out. I'm gonna be your host in this journey. My name is Rika Casab, and I must apologize in advance. You've probably already noticed that there is something weird about me, and there's a reason behind this inherent weirdness. You see, I got a condition since birth, and it affects my social and communication skills. You see, I am Mexican. And a very cliche one. I'm all about the tequila, the skulls, and the spicy stuff. So once again, I apologize in advance. Aside from the weirdness, I also bring you 10 years of experience in creative industries as an artist. I work doing all sorts of things. I've done comics, films, animation, book illustration, and I also work in video games, as you might imagine. I am currently working as a game artist for Saltworks Entertainment, and I'm sure you have not heard of it. That is fine. But you probably have heard of these guys, Black Salts. After the great success of Dredge, Saltworks was born, and we are a group of small studios creating OIP. There's another studio that was recently announced, these two games, but we have plenty of things cooking, so keep an eye on us. And because I have given up sleep in life, I also have a small business with my husband. It's called Small Robot Studio. The husband is Michael, the business, Small Robot Studio. And we have over 70K subscribers on YouTube. Our main focus is to create 3D educational content, but we also do work from hire, and we develop our own projects. And here's a sneak peek of one. Yay, Mexican stuff. So yeah, that is what I do. If you are curious about my work or about Small Robot Studio, that's a cheeky link for you. And while I give you time to scan it, I want to get an idea of who are you. So can I see hands for 2D artists? All right, quite a bit of 2D artists, nice. 3D artists, nice, also quite a bit. Game designers. My gosh, lots of them. I wasn't expecting this many. Nice. Developers? Fair enough, yeah. No, this is an art talk. And my favorite category, none of the above. Yay! Awesome. All right, well, let's talk about iPads. And I created a character just for you to show you what an iPad is capable of. Here it goes. This guy. Nice. Sorry, I have not named him yet. Maybe we could call him Bob, or maybe El Bobby, since he's Mexican as well. I know what you're thinking. Wow, Erika, did you really create this in the iPad? To which I say, yes, imaginary representation of the audience, I did. Mostly. My goal today is to show you the state of iPad software, where it is really good at, the things that it excels at, and the things that it might be lacking, the things that it's behind. But TLDR, I am not replacing my PC with an iPad. I really like the technology, but it is not capable of replacing a PC. Technology evolves in mysterious ways, but I still don't see it replacing PCs in the near future, because not even a Mac can compete. And why is this relevant? Because I'm starting telling you like, well, yeah, the iPad doesn't really compete. But I think it's relevant because mobile devices are not made to outperform PCs. There are a lot of things that we rather do in our phones, even though we can do it on a PC and it's more powerful and whatever. If you think about 14 years ago, Photoshop and Wacom tablets were the tool for digital painting. But then came Procreate and iPads, and artists really liked that. Artists appreciated the versatility, but they also appreciated the experience of using that technology. And that is the next point, the user experience innovation. Because of their size, because of their performance, we have to change how we do these apps. We have to make leaner interfaces, and a lot of them become more intuitive and more simple, and that is part of what changes the experience of using iPads. And there is a promise of potential. This is not new technology. 3D software in the iPad is more than 5 years old. And the development, it's incredibly speedy. You wouldn't believe it. If you look at the list of features that Maya has added in the last 5 years compared to iPad software, it is very clear who's falling asleep in the race. It's Autodesk. And we also have big companies investing on it. We have Maxon that has thrown a lot of money into this technology. And if they are doing that, you might as well pay a bit of attention. Of course, the biggest testament of the potential of the iPad is the art that can be created on it. And you might not like my art, that is fair, but there is a lot of examples out there with different styles, different levels of fidelity. But we are in a game dev conference. We all know that if you give a human being a rock, they're still gonna make amazing art. But we want to make usable assets for games. Is this possible in an iPad? Yes, it is. And here's an example of a game that the iPad has contributed to. City. This is the game that I'm working on my day job for Saltworks Entertainment. And since I'm already bringing it up, you might add it to your wish list. Wink. And I can only show you a little bit because we are still in development, but here's a sneak peek of the iPad of some of the character work that I've been doing on it. And I know it's disappointing, I can't show you much about this, but I am gonna show you the creation process of the big cat, El Bobby. And here is a little bit of the concept art I did. There's also an asset that I created for a previous talk, and I thought, I want a character that wields this sword. The challenge to me was, of course, to create this only using the iPad. I wanted to make an animation-ready character that works in a game engine. This is what I do in my game, in my daily job. And I'm only demonstrating some of the apps because there's a lot of them. So many of them. My filtering criteria was to make sure that these apps have an accessible price, that they are in active development, that they are receiving updates, they haven't been abandoned, that the assets can be exported either to other PC software or to game engines, and of course, that I enjoy the apps. I'm not going to mention all of them of the disqualified ones, but I do want to talk about, for example, about Armor Paint, which is a texturing app. This one can do hand-painted textures, but you can also create procedural node-based materials. I didn't include it because the app is in alpha stage and it is very unstable at the moment. Uniform is another one, Uniform 3D. This is like a full 3D editor. It's a little bit on the expensive side. It's really cool. It almost made the cut. I will mention it more later. And, well, the other ones are there. You can see the shortcut explanation of why I didn't use them. But what I do want to mention is the animation ones, the last three. I did not use because these are not compatible to game engines. You can do animations, but you render them there, but they just live in the iPad. So that is not useful for me. And I'm going to show you the creation process with time-lapse videos. They are between 1 to 3 minutes each, and I'm going to narrate them as they go. I am starting with Zbrush to create a character-based mesh. I was mainly after the Z modeler tool. That's what you're seeing here. It's a little bit combined with brushes as well. I jump a lot between those two tools, but it's quite cool that I can do the adjustments and still go back with up and down between levels of resolution. I like to work with low resolution to have a lot of control of my volumes. Subdividing in 3D means that each square that you have is divided by 4, so you can have that extra resolution when you need it or not. And using a lot of the polygroups actions. Polygroups are these colors that sometimes showed up, like those ones. This helped me make sections of the meshes. Sometimes I can do masking with them, or some of the Z modeler tools are also based on those colors that you see there. It is really worth mentioning that for Zbrush, you can use the keyboard. You're going to have the same shortcuts as you have on the desktop. I like it much better than using the UI. The UI is not bad, but it was competing with other shortcuts that I use as well in the iPad. So yeah, I didn't want to mess with my motor memory. Do let me know if these videos are a bit too fast. I can always replay them again because it's many hours of work that I chucked into just a couple minutes. And yeah, right now I'm just doing a quick blocking of the mask, mainly so I know where to place the features of my cat correctly. I spend too much time working without them. What else? Meshes and subtools work the same as PC. I find them a bit odd on Zbrush, but maybe that's just me. I just find it a bit clunky to edit. I will include this, the stage summary, just if we have like our 3D artists that want to know like more specifically what were the tools that you use, because it goes really fast. I'm not going to dwell too much on them though, because it's more fun to watch the videos. Okay, first pass. This is actually, there's a little bit of a thing there. I'm going to move on to a different app on the next video, but I want to give you the overview of Zbrush. It was really fast. I'm going to come back to Zbrush. Unsurprisingly, Zbrush is expensive, and this is a subscription model. You can pay monthly or you can pay yearly. There's a free limited demo, so if you're thinking about maybe learning the tool, you don't have to pay for it straight away. You won't be able to export assets, but you get a very good amount of tools to get started with. And if you have to pay for Zbrush on desktop, you can pay for the yearly subscription and you're going to get the iPad 1 too. I really liked the app. I hate Zbrush, but I like the app. I don't like Zbrush desktop because it's the most convoluted UI ever. But they fixed it in the iPad. It's really cool. So if you're an existing user, it's a really easy transition to come to the iPad because a lot of the tools are there. Not all of them yet, but a lot are. And it's just a matter of finding where they are. It can be a little clunky at the start, but you can edit the UI to make it more to your advantage, to select the tools that you use the most, to be accessible straight away. So that is awesome. If you're a beginner, Zbrush is a very complex tool. It can be overwhelming to try to grasp everything that it can offer. And there's a lot of nonsense Zbrush logic that you have to learn. It's not impossible, but it can be overwhelming. And something not so cool about Zbrush in the iPad is that it's going to fill the memory of your iPad really, really, really fast. If you don't know the Zbrush logic, this is going to take you by surprise, and you might not know how to fix it. Now for the next stage, we're using a different app. We're using Nomad Sculpt. It's very easy to import files from Zbrush. So I start with my favorite tool ever, the Tube tool. And I cannot express how much I love this. It creates meshes on a 3D curve. And I've tried lots of versions that are out there. I've tried Blender, it's not bad, but this is so much better. It's very intuitive to move the curve in 3D space. You have control over the radius, over the profile of the shape, and the topology. It's very non-destructive, so I can jump between them and edit them, and I can bake it any moment that I want. It's very, very versatile. It's my favorite tool to creating polygonal hair, but you're gonna see that I use it for a bunch of things in this cat. And while I haven't personally tried it, you can also turn this into planes. So you can use it to create hair cards, which is amazing. And the UVs are normalized, so they only need a little bit of tweaking for texturing. Very, very fast, because it goes real fast. I'm just gonna highlight that my export from Zbrush was a high resolution mesh, and I reconstructed the lower resolution levels in Nomad. So that's a workflow that is accessible in Nomad. And now we are gonna block the mask of our big cat. And what I'm gonna do here is gonna create a lot of new meshes, a lot of primitives that I'm gonna eventually Boolean together. The primitives are this like basic shapes, the spheres, the cylinders are cones. And what is really cool in Nomad compared to Zbrush is that it is very easy to edit them non-destructively. Yeah, I am doing a lot of like rounding the shapes, changing the radiuses really, really fast. There's another really cool thing, the modifiers. I am creating an array of curves, a curves in a curves. It actually is. And in this part, I'm gonna use something like polygroups to give me sharp corners. It's just very exciting. I really, really, really love Nomad. Oh, my notes are all weird. Sorry, just 1 second. There we go. Mirror instances, of course, are being used for the eyes, for all the topologies that you see that are on both sides. And we have the X-rays. Once again, I'm using there the array of curves. And it's just, there is no per se hard surface modeling, but you can still Boolean things together to create something that is more hard surface-like. I haven't really touched sculpting tools at this point. It's just bashing shapes together to create a blocking. For the braid at the top, I went through several iterations. I thought that I could do a different version that looks similar, and you can see more of the power of this curve tools, why I love them so much. I can give them shape, I can twist them around. I ended up changing this over and over again because I realized later it was going to be a bit of a topology nightmare. And now what I'm doing is painting a mask to kind of get an idea of where the clothes of the character are going to sit. I can see it on the concept art, but it's better to get a feel. And this is a cheap, easy way to get it fast, to get it pre-visualized, to make changes if needed, to maybe challenge if things are not quite working correctly. This is the sword that I showed you before. I merely brought it in and tried to figure out how my character was going to carry it. And this I really like. I am painting a mask and I am extracting it. And I can paint it and edit it on the go with the pre-visualization before I actually commit to it. And once I export it, once I do the commit to this extraction, the topology is going to be a bit of a mess. But in this part, I'm going to use a tool that Zbrush users might already know, ZRemesh. It is the same tool. It has a different name, but it was written by the same dev. So you're going to get very, very cool results. Of course, this goes way faster than I can speak. Yeah, the very last part was just Booleaning all the character together to get it ready for retopology. Oh my God, I don't know what to say. My stage summary. You can read it much faster than I can say it, but you already saw the whole thing. There's, of course, way more tools. These are just the ones that I'm using specifically in my workflow. And the Nomad Sculpt overview, look at that. It is $20 US, and you pay for it once, and you own it. No subscription model, really, really cool. This is one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite apps, is really good value for the money, and you keep getting all the updates. There is a free limited demo on iOS, and if you don't have an iPad but you want to try it, there is also a web demo that you can try. There is only one thing that you're going to buy separately, and this is the Quad Remesh plugin, which is Z-Remesh in Zbrush. So it's really worth it if you care about this sort of stuff, if you're going for more serious 3D work. If you're kind of beginner, if you want to like maybe just testify like this, or maybe do illustration sculpting, you don't need that. My review, yeah, love the app. It's a slightly less of a sophisticated tool offered than Zbrush, but this is not necessarily a bad thing. Zbrush has 1,000 ways to do things. This is limited, but it's way easier to learn because you're not overloaded with the amount of information that Zbrush is throwing at you. There's no hard surface modeling, like I mentioned, and it does drain the battery pretty fast. So not everything is as fun. Retopology, it's our next stage, and I am moving to another app, Cozy Blanket. And in this case, I imported the high-resolution model and the model that I made originally on Zbrush with the Z Modeler tool, because this means that a lot of the work is already done and I'm only making adjustments. This saves a lot of time. With Cozy Blanket, you're basically drawing the topology with your pen. You don't have necessarily to draw square by square. There are gestures that make it easy to add polyloops, to add like large clusters, to duplicate patches, and it feels really nice. This is a task that plenty of 3D artists hate, and I never really enjoyed it until I was using this app. There's something that feels just, I guess, gamified about this. It feels like I'm playing, it feels like I'm doing a puzzle, so I enjoy it a lot more. And what else? I'm going for a target poly count of around 5K, and I have the stats at the bottom that help me keep track of things. And I am being very deliberate of the topology because this is an animation asset. This is gonna be deforming, and I gotta make sure that those loops are running correctly. For the mask, I started from scratch. I didn't use anything before because it was a booleaning, a high-resolution mesh. But I didn't have to be as careful here because this was a non-deforming asset. So there's a lot more triangles that I'm using. Maybe it's a slightly less elegant topology, but it works. If you are new to this and you maybe have heard about, whoa, triangles, should we use them, should we not use them? I would say avoid them while you're learning because they can get messy really, really, really fast. And the rigger might not like it. They'll come to you and slap you for your bad topology. My stage summary, the only thing I want to highlight here is the last one, the loop IDs. And these are the colors that you see that sometimes show up on those rings. I don't know any other app that does it, but this makes my job so much easier. And this is a model with low topology, but when we're thinking about way higher resolution, those are just keep my sanity. It's the tiniest thing, but make my life a lot easier. This tool can also do manual UVs, and it works very similarly. You're using your pen, and you're kind of like drawing where the seams are gonna go for your UV. Once again, this feels like a game approach. It feels a bit like a puzzle. It's not as annoying as this task normally is if you're doing it, especially in Maya. Maya sucks for this. Blender is not so bad. We have, once again, the color coding for each of the UV islands that we are creating. And you can unpack automatically with a cheeky gesture. You basically, with your pen, go like, like if you were El Zorro, and it unpacks it very nicely. You have your checkerboard, so you can see if things are deforming correctly or if you need to do a bit more cuts. I really like this for making the seams, but I don't like the packing as much because it is very automated, and I'm a bit of a control freak. I really like to control where my islands are. Sometimes I like to make tricks that are gonna help my texturing go faster, and I don't know, I can't even set the specific textile density for these islands, and that is a bit annoying. It does have a nice quadrifying tool, that you saw there real quick. Instead of getting like this mess, it gives you a nice grid, so that I do appreciate. So my stage summary, it's a very simple tool. There's not that much to see here. It's a very niche thing what this app can do, but I do enjoy it. I try to use it as much as possible. For our overview, it's honestly a bit on the expensive side. You can get it lifetime. This is not a subscription, and you have several options. You have the light version, which has limited tools, but is usable. I used it like that for a while before I upgraded to the larger version. Though this is only for version 2.0, meaning that when the developers finally release 3.0, this is probably going to be a separate payment thing. It does have a free limited demo, so once again, you can try it without having to commit to the whole thing. It can be an expensive and very niche app. This is a tiny, tiny part of the pipeline. So if you don't really have a reason to do retopology, if you're not doing animation, if you have no need to control this, there's no need for you to use it. Because I know that there's plenty of people that like to do 3D casual work in the iPad. So great, great, great for animation. Great if you need manual UVs, but not necessarily if you're doing just for funsies. And the symmetry tool is a bit clunky. That's one of my biggest, pain points with it. It can destroy a bit the work. And like I already told you, the packing is basic. I don't enjoy the packing. I usually use the seams. I mark all my seams, and then I send it to Blender to finish my packing there. But actually mentioning Blender, you don't see it on the video, but I do this a lot in my work. You can network connect Cozy Blanket with Blender. So you're working on Cozy Blanket. You can even share the camera. You move it in the iPad, and Blender goes crazy as well. And it's just one click that you can send the assets around. So that is a very nice way to work if you really hate the tools that Blender offers. At least the vanilla Blender, the add-ons are not so bad. I also think the future of this product is a bit confusing. And this is where I want to touch on Uniform 3D, that other app that I showed you before, the one that I almost used. Sparsil is the developers. Cozy Blanket is very niche. Cozy Blanket does retopology, does UV, and it does baking. And it's a bit expensive. But they also have this other app, Uniform, which is a fully featured 3D editor. It can do hard surface, it can do sculpting, and it does the thing that Cozy Blanket does. Uniform was released afterwards. I had already paid the almost $100 for this thing. So when it came out, I was like, why is there a new tool that is cheaper and can do more things? And I dug into their Discord to try to figure out if I was scammed or what the hell happened. And it turns out that there's other people that were feeling the same, that were asking the same questions. Paraphrasing all of those words, the developers say that Cozy Blanket is not being replaced. It's not a new tool that is getting rid of the other one. They are separate products. One is more specialized than the other. Uniform can do some of these things, but there's not as many tools to do it. So if you want to have this suite of different shortcuts of different things to create patches and blah, 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 Cozy Blanket does it. If you just want a basic retopology tool, then Uniform is the way to go. I also did find what I've mentioned before, that free perpetual updates are not guaranteed. And I know this is a bit of a downer when we think about Procreate, Nomad Sculpt. You paid once and you get updates over and over and over again. But these are two people. The developers are only two people. So I understand this is not a business model that might work for them. And everyone needs money to eat. So any major update could be paywalled. They're currently still servicing these apps, but we don't know for how much longer we're going to have the free updates. And we can go back to the creation process and now have a look at texturing. And this is Procreate. Yes, this very famous painting app, 2D, mostly known for its 2D. And I'm focusing only in diffuse textures, but it also supports roughness and metalness. You cannot create normals, but you can bring them from other software. All the apps that I showed you before can actually bake normals. And I really like the brush engine in Procreate, but that's all the nice things that I can say about this for texturing. Symmetry is not supported. Masking only works per mesh. I cannot see the wireframe anytime. I cannot see my flat UV unwraps. And changing the lighting in the scene is buried in a lot of menus that I can never find. It's really, really annoying. I already knew that this tool was not up to a standard, that it was lacking a bunch of things. And I had different plans for the texturing, but I still wanted to show you. I thought that I could use it as a sketching tool. I thought that maybe this could be cool for concept art, to kind of like iterate, to get like some dirty things out there, test colors, but I still didn't like it. It was very messy. The way that the layers work with the meshes, it just makes it really annoying, and I ended up spending way too much time trying to clean things rather than actually painting. So, not cool. Very, very, very limited offers for 3D painting. So my overview, it's cool for digital painting. I do not recommend it for 3D textures. Sorry. And honestly, it's not worth it because texturing has not received any updates since 2021. And they have no plans to continue this. So I think it was just an experiment. It didn't quite pay out. They have a different vision. Too bad. It sounded like it had potential. But it's kind of cheap if you like 2D. It's a really nice app for 2D painting. And to try to finish my textures, I went back into Zbrush. Okay, there we go. I know that in Zbrush I can do polypaint, and I thought that I could use this base that I painted in Procreate and transfer it into vertex paint. It sounded right. I proceeded to create a bunch of polygroups, all of these like color coding areas, because that was going to help me mask and avoid the mess that was happening in Procreate. And after that, I made a high-resolution version of my model that's going to come up shortly, and I transferred the textures from the UVs into the polypaint. Eventually, I had to put it back into UVs, but this is what Zbrush offers. And my experiment worked so far, so then I was like, cool, let's go and polygroup all this mask, which you can see is quite a bit, because I had already planned what the colors were going to be. But then I started to find things in my model that were not right. I started to find holes that I don't know how they happened. The symmetry was broken, and I knew that my rigger was going to be angry if that was not right. And I had to try to find where these errors came from. I had to try to find when to fix it. It was just annoying because I had to re-import this mesh. I had to redo all this polygrouping, and I was starting to waste too much time. I spent a whole day trying over and over and over to set the scene to get started to paint, but I never really actually got to paint. It just became too much of an issue. And this is where I stopped recording. This was just a fraction of that day. I tried to carry on, but then Zbrush crashed in the iPad, and it turns out that my iPad was full. The memory was just topped. This was my first project on Zbrush. I've done plenty of projects with other apps, countless, dozens of projects, never had an issue with memory. One project in Zbrush, iPad was full. After crying a bit and consulting with my husband, he reminded me the Zbrush logic, save history and quick saves. It's a feature that is on by default in Zbrush. That is what was obliterating my iPad. But you had to be a Zbrush user to know these things. It was really, really annoying. And at this point, I gave up. I'm sorry, I was not going to complete the task. I was not going to complete this asset in the iPad. My deadline was approaching. I had to finish this asset. I had to prepare the talk, and I was wasting too much time. I couldn't just get started painting. I was annoyed for failing the challenge. But I also remember that my goal here with you is to show you where the iPad is really good at. We saw it in sculpting. Sculpting is amazing, but I'm here to show you as well the things that the iPad falls short. Texturing is not there yet. I am confident that if you use Zbrush for poly paint in a more traditional way and not the weird shenanigans I was using, you're going to have a similar experience than in the PC. But another reason that I gave up is because I don't use poly paint on my workflow. What I use is painting directly on the UVs. I use Substance. Before I move on to the Substance part, it is also worth mentioning that my process is not linear. I don't do one thing, complete it, move on to the next thing, complete it, and forget completely about what happened before. Very often, I'm close to nearing completing my textures, and then I go back and I mess a little bit around with the topology, or maybe I change a little the UV because this is going to help me texture something easier. My process is not linear, and in game dev, it's often never the case that something is linear. We are always iterating, we're always jumping around. And this is something that I can do very easily in Blender. But in the iPad, it was very, very destructive. Every time that I went back and then came back, it was awkward because I was jumping between apps, and it often destroyed parts of the work that I was doing, like what you saw on Zbrush, redoing and redoing and redoing those poly grouping, which was annoying. And it was also very unrealistic because this is not how I operate in my daily job. I go for whatever is the most effective, whatever I can do faster. Just for the sake of working in the iPad, this is a waste of time. You can't do, at least today, everything in the iPad. Non-destructive workflows win. This is why Substance is my go-to. This is a no-brainer for me. I can do hand-painted textures in Substance, but I can also leverage procedural tools. That brushy base is a tiling texture that I created in Designer, and it's editable. And it also turns out that I can iterate a lot more in Substance. I can experiment with the colors, I can change things around, and it's way easier. I can get a lot more options than I did in Procreate. Nothing in the iPad is remotely close to what Substance gives me and the flexibility it offers to make quick changes without redoing things. Masking for me is key when I am texturing. Very shortly you're going to see that one layer that has a bunch of nested masks. It helps me. It might look like a lot, but I can work very fast and make changes non-destructively, amazingly. And if anything, the reason why I'm showing you this is for the devs. I remember you were down there. This is a gap in the market. Give me a nice texturing app for the iPad, please. I like Substance, but I hate giving money to Adobe. So if you make me an app, my money's yours. All right, one last thing, one last stage, posing. This is not necessarily a part of production, but it's used a lot for concept art or simply for a better presentation in portfolio pieces of models, because it's cooler to see a character in action than a character T-posing. And if you paid attention, this is Zbrush desktop, not the iPad. When I was reading the list of features for the iPad, it mentions Z spheres, which are these spheres that you see me putting in there. And it also mentions transpose master. And I thought, wow, I can do this rigging for dummies that I use because I'm not a rigger in the iPad. That sounds really cool. But it turns out it's not there yet. You can use those tools to a limited degree, but that cool skeleton binding is not quite there. This is what is accessible right now in the iPad. You do have the transpose master, which lets you keep your original version of your model, and then you can pose it. But I'm hoping that this feature is going to come soon because we have the base for it. And there's a lot of things that have been added from Zbrush since, I think last year it was released, or maybe earlier this year. It's really fast development for these apps. I cannot take credit for the poses that you saw. My husband took care of that because I suck at animation. But here you have an animation-ready character created in the iPad, mostly. Just some closing thoughts. Would I recommend, after all this, the iPad for 3D work? I would say yes for sculpting. I'm very, very, very excited about the sculpting tools. I am especially excited about Nomad Sculpt. If anything, this talk is a commercial for Nomad Sculpt. And Nomad Sculpt is not only for the iPad. Last week it was released for desktop, and it's only $35. So, I don't know, Zbrush for $100 yearly, $35 forever. You choose. I will never tell you to get an iPad as a replacement for the PC. It's not there yet. I don't think it's ever going to be there. But if you get an iPad for other reasons, if you already have one, if you have the budget for it, then I do want to encourage you to try these tools. Try these apps. Try some of the other ones that I didn't publish here, because there's a lot of potential here. If you want to maybe learn 3D, but you're not sure, this is a very low-stakes environment to get an overview of these apps, to kind of get a feel if you actually like it, without having to commit like, okay, I need 1,000 hours to learn Blender because there's a lot to it, and I don't understand anything the first time that I open it. These apps are more friendlier, which makes the learning a lot easier. You also have the portability, if you care about that. If maybe you are a professional and you want to be able to sketch things, but with the PC you are chained to a desk. And this allows you to go to your garden, to go and sit on your couch, and kind of like change the vibe of how you approach your work. And of course, it can offer alternative workflows, which leads me to my next thing. Do I actually use this at studio work? I do. I especially use it for the things that the iPad is good at. So not everything, not all the characters that you saw for Canvas City were fully made on the iPad. But what I really like to do on the iPad is the hair. All that polygonal hair in the iPad is so much easier, so much nicer to use that tube tool. I also like to do, whenever possible, retopology because I can connect it with Blender. But realistically, I use the iPad at work maybe once a week. Maybe less now that I have desktop Nomad. But I still prefer how it feels on the iPad compared to the desktop. And I want to bring this back. Why is it relevant? Outperforming a PC is not the goal of mobile devices. It's about the experience. It's about how it feels. For some reason, it feels a lot more natural, and that enables me to create art. When I first learned Zbrush, when I was many, many, many years ago, because I'm pretty old, I hated it. I chose to do 2D. I chose my career to do 2D because I hated Zbrush, and I said, I'm never gonna do 3D. And then the pandemic came, and now I'm a 3D artist. But what enabled me to find my love for 3D was the iPad, was Nomad. It felt good. I was not fighting an interface. I was not trying to fight weird Zbrush logic. I was just being able to create. And that, I think, is the power that these tools can bring, is this user experience innovation. And once again, the promise of potential. Maxon is not the only company that is investing on it. Blender on iPad is in development. Thank you very, very much for your time. I really, really appreciate you all being here. This is all from me. So, well, there are my socials if you want to connect. I also have nice business cards with a pretty cat if you want them. But otherwise, now it's time for you to ask questions.
Do you have an easy way to get files from the iPad onto a PC? They don't like each other very much.
I use Google Drive. And I actually found that Slack is really fast for sending files. I just message me the files and then open them on the PC. If you have a Mac, you have the AirDrop, but I don't have one, so I don't have that.
Thank you.
No worries.
Could you have downloaded the base mesh in Nomad instead of Zbrush?
Yes, I could have, but I would not have as much control of the topology as I did on Zbrush. The ZModeler tool, you can manually add loops wherever you want. You can pick one vertex and move it exactly where you want it. So that is why I wanted to use ZModeler. With Nomad, you can use ZRemesh, but it's always automated, and it's never as much control as you would have with a manual tool like that. No worries. Any other question out there?
I saw when you were using Posy Blanket, there was a couple of polyloop highlights. Was that just for visualizing polyloops, or was there a different tool in play there? They were like colorized differently.
Yeah, it's like a built-in ID polygroup that it has. It's mainly to keep track that the topology is running where you like, that the loops are going in the direction that you are planning to. Because when the base meshes are a lot higher, because there's so many polygons, you get lost. So it helps to have those color IDs.
I have a follow-up question, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Uniform's the other one.
Yes, Uniform 3D.
Does Uniform also have the same connection to Blender that Posy Blanket does?
I actually don't know. I would assume yes, because it's the same developers, but I cannot guarantee it.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Sorry if I'm going again, but
No.
I just wanted to know, the iPad's like one of the main things about iPad is you can take it anywhere. Do you find yourself doing any of this stuff not in the office, like on the couch in the living room or outside? I know it drains the battery life. I'm just wondering if it does allow you to be more mobile.
It does allow you to be more mobile, but I am Mexican and I don't take my iPad anywhere because I'm afraid it's going to get stolen. You may not have this fear because New Zealand is a lot safer than here, but yeah, no, you can still take it anywhere. Nomad will not give you a lot of battery life, but Zbrush lasts a lot. Zbrush is great in terms of battery life. Alrighty, if we don't have any more questions, I'll let you go and be free. Thank you again for your time.